Chapter 327. Yes, who took the photo? This angle, this lighting, they knew Almighty Qin didn't like to show his face, so they deliberately blurred Almighty Qin's face, leaving only that graceful arc in Almighty Qin's unique noble temperament. The appearance of such a magnificent sleeping face was so sudden that Qin Mo's fans were so excited that they forgot the most important question. Now they were reminded of it. Another wave of heated discussion came. As an 18-year-old selfie lover, I can responsibly tell the beauties that this angle is impossible to take a selfie, and the selfie stick is useless, unless it's with the help of other external forces. I think even if Almighty Qin took a selfie, he wouldn't use a selfie stick. Let me summarize what the 2 floors above said. The photo was definitely taken by someone else. So, who is this someone else? From the photo, Almighty Qin probably hasn't woken up yet. Who could be next to Almighty Qin when he was sleeping? I have something to report. Isn't the Supreme Alliance training in Tokyo now? It's said that 2 people share a room, you know. According to Almighty Qin's personality, he would definitely live alone. Our Almighty Qin is very obsessed with cleanliness, everyone knows that. Maybe it's Manager Feng. That's the only answer I can think of. I don't think it's right. Would Almighty Qin open the door and let Manager Feng take a photo of his sleeping face? Almighty Qin would only smile at Manager Feng and ask him to leave, so this answer doesn't make sense. That's right. This was the reaction their captain would have. In front of their captain, Manager Feng's foxtail was especially restrained, probably because he knew he couldn't beat the captain. So what was going on? As an internal member of the Supreme Alliance, Lin Feng also couldn't figure out who took this photo at this time. According to yesterday's room allocation, the captain did sleep alone. At this time, 8:20 in the morning, no one would dare to enter the captain's room, right? Only student Feng in the suite guessed the answer after seeing the Weibo post. The person who took this photo was very likely his idol. What? Why did Almighty Qin become the protagonist of everything he imagined? In his fantasy, he woke up with his idol, took a photo with him while washing his face and posted it on Weibo. His brother's mission was to post a Weibo post every day after becoming a professional player to gain popularity. In the end, student Feng felt wronged and needed to calm down. On the other side, after Fujio posted on Weibo, she logged out and sent an OK gesture to Manager Feng. Manager Feng also saw the photo, but he didn't reply. Instead, he silently looked up at the sky covered by the haze outside Jianghu City Airport. This has nothing to do with him. He was a man about to get on a plane. Oh, little spade, good luck. Seeing that Manager Feng didn't reply to her message, Fujio thought that he had boarded the plane, so she didn't care. She got up, took a lollipop from the bedside table and put it in her mouth. She heard that there was a mobile version of the hero. She could download it on her phone and register to level up. However, at this time the fans on Weibo had all turned into all-round detectives. Even some of the members of the other battle teams couldn't help but send private messages to Lin Feng. Chapter 328. At this moment, Xuanhu glanced at the photo on Weibo again. He took a sip of mineral water. I can roughly guess who it is. You can guess. Lin Feng jumped up in excitement, grabbing onto Xuanhu's arm. Who is it? Who is it? Xuanhu glanced down at his fair collarbone, frowning. Then he enlarged the photo. Take your time, there's a bright spot. Since you already know, why didn't you tell me directly? Lin Feng wanted to pull his hair again. Xuanhu pulled his shirt over his head. Because I wanted to use this chance to train your slow reflexes. I can give you a hint, Captain might not have slept alone last night. When Lin Feng heard this, he knew it was impossible to get an answer from Xuanhu. But Captain didn't sleep alone? So exciting. What's the bright spot? Lin Feng caressed his chin, his big round eyes looking at the photo on Weibo. Why couldn't he see any bright spot? The brightest spot was the captain himself. Even though his face wasn't very clear, it was especially well defined under the light. That faint shadow was like an angel whose wings had been broken and was lying in the holy light, dazzling everyone's eyes. Who could see anything else? But once intelligence was involved, it was a huge problem. Lin Feng lowered his head, staring at the photo carefully. Still nothing. But even if he couldn't see it, it didn't mean that the smart MO and GeoCP fans couldn't see it. Of course, there were some smart old Qin fans who weren't CP fans. Beauties, look carefully, don't you think this photo is weird? What's weird? Cut off the picture, the arrow points to the lollipop, black ring and some eye drops on the bedside table. Let's not talk about the latter, just the lollipop and black ring. The Almighty never wears a ring. Fine, let's just say the Almighty bought one for himself when he went to Tokyo. Let's have a good half-cent lollipop. The Almighty doesn't like sweets, much less eating lollipops. Who do you think the lollipop belongs to? Someone with a tacit understanding passing by. Single dogs are fed another bowl of dog food. They don't want to talk about it so early in the morning. When they go to work, they have the same tacit understanding. Wait a minute, brothers and sisters above, why don't I understand? What do you mean? It's obvious who the lollipop belongs to. Last night, that person slept in the same room as Almighty Qin. Today, the person who took the photo is, you know. As a fan of Big Spade, I understand. Super +1. My Big Spade is being naughty again. The candy caught me off guard. Some of the younger fans still didn't understand. They still thought that Almighty Qin had shot it himself, and that he shouldn't be implicating others. Some Spade Z fans are too much. Do they have to link our Almighty Qin and Spade Z together? In fact, the first person to come up with this theory wasn't a Spade fan, but an old Qin fan. It was obvious that their Almighty had slept with Spade Z. What else was there to say? After all, they were all people who truly liked Almighty Qin and didn't want to cause trouble for him, so they ignored him. Chapter 329. Spade's fans felt uncomfortable when they saw this sentence, but after the last online incident, they calmed down a lot. Their first reaction wasn't to retort, but to ask their big sister. Sister Turtle, what should we do? Almighty Qin's fans are saying that we are binding Almighty Qin. Sister Turtle was the rational fan from before, so she said very decisively, don't do anything. After this incident, you can see that Big Spade and Almighty Qin have a very good relationship, and Almighty Qin is also very protective of Big Spade. Since this is the case, don't let some people and some words affect their relationship. I believe everyone knows who took this photo today. Today Big Spade is giving us sweets. Since he is giving sweets, we should also be happy. Don't pay attention to this kind of person who obviously wants attention. This topic will destroy the relationship between Big Spade and Almighty Qin. Why don't we queue up and tag Big Spade and tease him? If Manager Feng, who was sitting on the plane, knew this was how things were handled, he would definitely give Sister Turtle a thumbs up. She was so prescient. Most of Spade's fans responded to the call, and only a few of them still said something that could easily cause disputes. The funniest thing was this scene. A self-proclaimed Spade fan came out and said, "Sorry, my Big Spade definitely didn't think so much. Now I also realize that I have caused trouble for Qin's fans. I will explain to Spade's fans later." That person quickly replied to this Spade fan, "It's okay dear, as long as you understand moi." Spade's fans were burning with rage. What was going on? What did my Big Spade do to deserve an apology? That person was obviously a schemer. He was young, but he had a lot of tricks up his sleeves. I was a little rude just now, but let me say this first, I also like Big Spade, but some things shouldn't always be linked together. Yes, you are right. Sister Turtle saw that some people who liked Big Spade had become the other party's accomplices, so she stopped the meeting and went directly to Weibo to shout. Didn't they say that the photo was not sent by their Big Spade? When Sister Turtle reposted Qin Mo's Weibo post, she tagged Spade Z. She wrote, "Big Spade, next time you take a photo, remember to cover up. Look at you forgot to take your ring and lollipop. Don't leave too obvious traces." As soon as she saw this comment, the poster understood why everyone said it was Spade Z who took the photo of their Almighty Qin. But since she had already said it, she could only pretend she didn't see anything. Anyway, she had already gotten the attention. The 2 or 3 little Spade fans were still confused, replying to her, "Sorry, I thought there was something wrong with you just now. Now I'll clarify with them, you're in the wrong, sorry. Thank you for clarifying the matter. As a Spade fan, I might have misunderstood you. I'm also a fan of Spade Z. I couldn't accept what you said at first, but after seeing this post, I feel that Almighty is quite righteous." Sister Turtle really wanted to ask them, what exactly did that person clarify? Where was the integrity? But she resisted. In the past, when she was writing for a website, she had encountered the same thing. Sometimes being strong didn't mean being invincible. There were many people who had thoughts that you couldn't see through. Chapter 330. Originally, she thought that her understanding would backfire. Because in this world, there would always be people who would believe some disguised words. Her Big Spade wasn't a person who could disguise, but the other party was. So she wouldn't make the same mistake twice. Especially when it came to protecting Spade Z. She had to be calmer and win with experience. Fortunately, she wasn't fighting alone. As soon as her it came out, a lot of people reposted her, including those who really liked Spade Z and only focused on the passion that Spade Z brought them. They used it one after another to prove their strong and powerful existence. My big spade did it on purpose. Such a domineering attack would definitely leave evidence that he and Almighty Qin are sleeping together. Are you sure? Almighty Qin won't do it. I'll just wait for Almighty Qin to wake up and check Weibo. Yes, according to Almighty Qin's character, there will be two endings. One is to block Big Spade, the other is to sleep with Big Spade. Just like that, the scene changed again. An aura full of love spread out. That person is still posting to make his presence known? Sorry, people who really liked Spade Z wouldn't have any interaction with you. If you want to gain popularity, you can feel it yourself with a look. Lin Feng was still moved and frightened by Little Spade's success in sleeping with Captain. He turned his head and said to Xuanhu, "That's not right, it was Little Feng Shang who slept with Little Spade. How did he change to Captain? Do you think there was nothing between them last night?" According to Little Spade's character, he would definitely. Even if Little Spade had ulterior motives towards Captain, it wouldn't be a big deal. Obviously, there will be two situations. One is that he was beaten up by Captain and thrown out, and the other is that the person who was slept with was him, not Captain. Xuanhu was indeed the best player in Supreme Alliance other than the Almighty. He hit the nail on the head with one sentence. But Little Spade is really charming. I can see that someone is protecting him. Protecting? You mean those at S from Spade fans? Lin Feng wasn't stupid. They have a good grasp of the wind direction, otherwise someone would take the opportunity to rise. After saying this, Lin Feng became excited again. Little Spade is indeed a fresh stream in our Supreme Alliance. He dared to take a photo of Captain and even used Captain's account to post on Weibo. Why could he use the Captain's account to post on Weibo? I'm sure Captain didn't post it himself, but how did Little Spade do it? You hacked Captain's system? I don't think so. Xuanhu tapped on the webpage on his phone. Our team's official Weibo isn't active, which means that Feng Yi knows about this. It's very likely that Little Spade got Feng Yi's approval before posting on Weibo. Otherwise, do you think Manager Feng, who values money as much as his life, wouldn't repost such an interactive photo? He's running away, and if the Captain finds out, he'll be held responsible. That makes sense. Lin Feng slapped his forehead. Ayaya, isn't Little Spade in trouble? I wonder how Captain will punish him. I really want to see. Achoo. Fujio logged out of Hero's page and logged back into the official Weibo account. Her slender fingers rubbed her nose carelessly, and her eyes paused. She was about to look at the comments that had been at. She heard a low chuckle coming from her left side. Why are you sneezing all of a sudden? Chapter 331. As soon as Fujio turned around, she was met with a pair of deep eyes, which inexplicably gave off a hazy and inviolable feeling. Did you catch a cold yesterday, or are you feeling unwell? The Almighty was still lying on the bed, the pillow pressed against his ear. His features were as handsome as a comic book, and a few strands of black hair fell on his forehead, the ends of the hair falling on his eyelashes. Even the smell of the hotel seemed to have sublimated on him. It was light and pleasant to the nose. But it didn't look good for the Almighty to wake up at this time. She had just replied to a post by someone called Sister Turtle, and she was going to check out other at S. Well, actually, it didn't matter what they were. What mattered was her reply. I'm so handsome, of course I'm the main. She had thought that her reply would be buried among all the comments, and the Almighty might not even see it. After all, the Almighty didn't like Weibo, and he definitely wouldn't go to her official Weibo to check the replies one by one. But Fujio's fingers paused and she naturally moved her phone away. No, I'm fine. Oh. Chinamo looked at her movements and raised his eyebrows. He lifted the quilt with his fingers and walked over slowly. Chinamo wasn't wearing a shirt, so his seductive waistline and well-defined chest were exposed. His mermaid lines could be seen clearly and he looked very oppressive. Fujio thought that no matter how powerful the Almighty was, he wouldn't notice that she had just sent a reply. But Chinamo bent over, leaned over, and pressed down on Fujio's hand. They were very close, so close that it seemed like he was going to press her down. Secretly playing with your phone while I was sleeping? That voice was really nice, but at this moment, it made her feel that every inch of his breath that hit her ear was dangerous. What did I say? Be obedient. Chinamo freed his other hand and tapped the corner of the youngster's eye. You don't want your eyes anymore, huh? So it was about the eye inflammation. Fujio thought that the Almighty had noticed something. I want them, Brother Imo, but I have to reply to your messages, right? For example, Baby Feng sent me a message yesterday. You know that Baby Feng needs to be taken care of. Manager Feng isn't here, so I have to take care of him. If I don't reply to his WeChat for a whole night, his heart will be fragile. There was a hint of coldness in Qin Mo's eyes. You're right. Right? Fu Jiu felt that God was kind to her. She was smart and didn't reveal any flaws when facing the pressure of a god. Fu Jiu didn't reveal any flaws, but she gave such an explanation. Qin Mo didn't like it very much. Baby Feng, huh? This form of address was quite intimate. He seemed to be very close to Feng Shang and Shui Yaoyao. At the thought of Shui Yaoyao's existence, he frowned subconsciously. Even the Almighty himself didn't know his expression at that time. Of course I can't let you lose contact with others. Qin Mo's voice was calm as he took the phone from Fu Jiu's hand. What do you want to reply to him? I'll help you. Fu Jiu. No matter how smart she was, she wouldn't have expected things to turn out this way. Why did the Almighty never play by the rules? At first, Qin Mo really wanted to reply to Feng Shang, but when he took the youngster's phone, he saw an eye-catching Weibo reply on the screen. Chapter 332. That's it. That was the only thought in Fu Jiu's mind. After Qin Mo picked up his phone, time seemed to stop between the two of them. It was empty for half a second. Qin Mo lowered his eyes and looked at the youngster on the bed. The youngster was looking at him too. That face was still clean and handsome, but no matter how he looked at it, it made people want to teach him a lesson. Attack? You. Qin Mo arched a brow, then his thin lips curved into a smile. He remained standing by the bed, but his left hand pressed down, supporting himself on the bed. Fu Jiu could clearly feel that the mattress had sunk a little because of the Almighty's movement. Qin Mo bent his waist and put one knee on the mattress. His legs were so long and beautiful. That handsome and noble face pressed down on her without any warning. His eyes were deep and black, like poppies in bloom, with a strong sense of abstinence. The morning sun shone on his deep and straight features, making him look even more oppressive. The two of them were so close that Fu Jiu couldn't move at all. The Almighty was so cunning that he even cut off her escape route. This position made it seem as if her entire body was trapped under him. The light minty smoke that belonged to the man assaulted her from all directions. He just looked at her. That pair of eyes that had always been indifferent seemed to be about to attack at this moment, emitting a dangerous and beautiful luster of a predator. Since you insist on being the attack, I'll have to practice with you. Let's see who's more aggressive, you or me. As Qin Mo said this, he was about to teach this troublemaker brother a lesson. His first reaction was to strip the youngster. Qin Mo's action completely alerted Fu Jiu. Brother Mo, I have something to say about this. Fu Jiu took a step back, but Qin Mo held her wrist. The Almighty didn't care. Oh, you still have something to say? When we play werewolf, everyone who is thrown out has to say something before they die. Fu Jiu looked serious. Qin Mo was interested. He wanted to hear what this naughty kid had to say. He was still talking about werewolf, so he raised his eyebrows at the youngster, signaling him to continue. Anyone who plays hero knows that offense is the best defense. Fu Jiu leaned forward, sat up straight, and kissed him on his right cheek without any warning. Her bright eyes, coupled with her silver hair, looked handsome and devilish. I want to say, Brother Mo, it's so early in the morning. Why would I think that you're interested in me when you're pounding me on the bed like that? Am I supposed to think that you're interested in me too? I can't help but kiss you. Indeed, Qin Mo didn't expect Fu Jiu to make such a move. His fingers paused and his mood sank. His eyes darkened like the water in a deep well. Fu Jiu seized the opportunity to escape from the predicament. She stood with one hand in her pocket and sighed regretfully. Brother Mo, what do you think we should do? Just when I thought I was a little straighter, you turn me gay again. This is not good, not good. At this moment, Qin Mo was so angry that he laughed. His lips curled up faintly. He straightened his body and stepped on the floor barefooted, like a god descending from the heavens. Afterward. Chapter 333. The distance between them was even closer, because both of them were standing. Moreover, Qin Mo grabbed Fu Jiu's collar and dragged her over. Following that strength and posture, Qin Mo lowered his head and leaned forward, his thin lips inching closer to Fu Jiu. The perfect height difference was just like what the Tokyo girls said. If the two of them kissed, the scene would be very beautiful. But Qin Mo was still rational. How could he kiss her? He was just warning his disobedient younger brother. You're so good at talking nonsense. Tell me, how should I teach you a lesson, huh? Brother Mo, do you want to hear the truth? You're the big brother, so you have to let me win. Fujio decided to change tactics. She didn't even try to dodge, and there was a slight smile on her lips. Qin Imo listened to the youngster's rascally tone and laughed instead of getting angry. You like meat? You like to play with your phone? You like to post on Weibo? The last one average. Fujio didn't have a habit of posting on Weibo, but what she said was true. Qin Imo was still holding onto her phone. He moved his fingers, letting her see for herself. Do you like to take photos? Brother Imo looks so handsome when he's sleeping. Of course I have to record such beautiful things. Fujio smiled casually. This is the first time I'm competing with so many people, and then I'm staying in a hotel room with my good friends. It's not bad to wake up like this in the morning, it'll be a memory in the future. When Qin Imo heard the youngster's words, he loosened his long fingers and tugged at the youngster. The two of them leaned back and lay down on the bed. Fujio did not expect the Almighty to make such a move. The Almighty's reaction was always different from what she expected. Therefore he was caught off guard for a moment. When his whole body was lying on the soft mattress, she saw the Almighty raise his left hand, which was holding the phone, and his right hand pressed her head against his shoulder. Then there was a cracking sound. Her face and the Almighty's shoulder appeared on the screen. Fujio paused and tilted her head to look at the man beside her. He had never been so close to anyone before, but he was really happy. Since it's a memory, it's more meaningful to take a photo together. Qin Mo's voice was very calm, but his attitude was like he would try his best to satisfy his younger brother no matter what he wanted. In addition, he had always been very resistant to taking photos. At this moment, he actually felt that the feeling of taking a photo with another person wasn't so bad after all. It should be said that it was not bad. Qin Mo's thin lips curled up, and his side profile was so handsome that even Fujio wanted to whistle. The Almighty was so handsome that he didn't leave anyone a way out. This expression doesn't look good. Fujio took the phone over to delete it. Qin Imo reached out to stop the youngster. Your embarrassed expression is enough to make me laugh for a year. Keep it. Fujio, why was she so touched just now? The Almighty's purpose for memory was to watch her make a fool of herself? Then I'll take another one. She was so handsome she couldn't lose to the Almighty. This time Qin Imo let Fujio be. The two of them were still in the same position, lying on the bed. The difference was that this time Fujio included the Almighty. The first time the two of them took a photo together was in bed. Only Fujio and Qin Imo. One was rebellious while the other was domineering and indifferent, thought nothing of it. Ordinary people would definitely think a lot when they saw that picture. Chapter 334. So handsome. Fujio looked at the photo and whistled with a devilish smile on her face. Just as she finished praising her handsomeness, the Almighty took away her phone and said in a deep voice, "Go drink your medicine." My phone? Confiscated. Qin Imo stood up and walked back to his bed, probably to find something to wear. Fujio's mood now was only comforting herself with good food. She also stood up and took her wallet. Brother Imo, what do you want to eat? I'll go get it. Most hotels provided free breakfast and it was a buffet. Especially in a star-rated hotel like this, the breakfast was even better. But there was still a charge to bring the food to the room. Qin Imo buttoned up the last button on his shirt and immediately said in a businesslike manner, "Let's go together after I wash up." Okay. Fujio smiled, looking exceptionally handsome. Boys were different from girls. He said he was going to wash his face and rinse his mouth. Girls' washing up included eyeliner, eyebrows, BB cream and other follow-up procedures. So it was definitely different in terms of time. In less than 3 minutes, the two of them walked out of the room and went down the elevator side by side. The hotel's restaurant was located in the lobby on the second floor. Dark carpets covered the floor, and gorgeous chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Below the lights was an oval marble table, on which many colorful dishes were placed. There were Western food, Chinese food and Japanese food. There were also fruits cut into flower shapes, which stretched down like a long dragon. In addition to these, there were also busy waiters. Because they were in Tokyo, they were also dressed as deacons. Some of them were pouring milk for the guests. They were wearing black suits and pure white gloves, which added a sense of gentleness to them. Hotel guests could choose food from here with the dining tickets in their room cards. Here the food must be fresh. If no one came to pick it up after 10 minutes, the waiters would bring a new batch of food. Fujio and Qin Imo chose a distance from the floor-to-ceiling window. From this angle they could see the most prosperous Tokyo streets outside the hotel. Their appearances naturally attracted many people's attention. In the past, Fujio only felt that she was handsome, so she didn't feel much about it. But now that she was with this god, it was indeed. It was mainly because the Almighty looked like a noble young master who was here for morning tea. His every move exuded nobility. Compared to the Almighty, she ate a lot. She didn't know how the Almighty's stomach worked. He only ate so little. Chinamo also wanted to ask Fujio this question. He glanced at the 3 empty plates in the youngster's hands and finally convinced himself that he was still growing in puberty. Otherwise, I really don't know where this guy puts his food. I'm not satisfied yet. Go get another plate of fried rice. Fujio stuffed one hand into her pocket. She didn't feel like she ate much at all. Brother Imo, what else do you want? I'll bring it over. Chinamo thought about it and felt that the way some parents did things was good. They let their children do more things for them. This would give them a sense of achievement, right? Black tea. Okay. Chinamo looked at the youngster's tall and straight back, then casually looked at his phone screen. Spade Z's Weibo account hadn't been logged out, so it was obvious that he was tagging and commenting. It was quite interesting to watch. Chapter 335. That was a message that had been replied to many times. That was why he could see it so easily. Look here, don't put our almighty Qin and Spade Z together, understand? There were actually 2 types of messages like this. First, someone didn't like being tied up. Second, they wanted to attract attention. Obviously, this person was the second type. Otherwise, he wouldn't have kept replying. I was a bit impulsive just now, but let me say this first, I like Big Spade too. Whether he liked Spade Z or not was another matter. After Chinamo clicked on that person's message, he only had one feeling. This person was imitating Spade Z in everything and wanted to become an internet celebrity. Chinamo was a businessman. As a businessman, it was easy to see the essence through appearances. It wasn't impossible that Spade Z could attract attention and wanted to spend money on him. Of course, Chinamo didn't rule out the possibility that this person might have really liked Spade Z from the start. But this liking wasn't pure. First, he pretended to be a fan, then he imitated Spade Z, and finally he posted such a message to attract attention. Anyone with a brain could see what he was thinking. This reply must have been avoided by the true Spade fans through the manipulation of public opinion. But some people couldn't see through it and kept interacting with that person. Almighty, I know you are a Spade Z fan too, that's why you said such words. Is to make my Big Spade better, it's okay, good luck. That person replied, I love Big Spade the most, hug. Then a few people started replying happily. I want to touch him. I caught Almighty, I realized he is similar to my Big Spade, he speaks so righteously, I'm a fan too. The topic that had already died down was stirred up again. Those who claimed to be Spade Z's fans didn't realize they had become accomplices to hurt Spade Z. They said they liked him, but they were helping a person who was trying to imitate Spade Z to become famous. In fact, Chinamo didn't care what this person was planning. But he didn't want his brother to see such a disgusting thing. If it wasn't good enough to guide the public opinion, he would add more. This time, Chinamo didn't post on Weibo directly. Instead, after 2 glances at the reposts, he accurately locked onto a person called Sister Turtle. Then he clicked on her nickname and sent a private message. I'll post something about someone on Weibo later. Is there a problem with it? Sister Turtle had imagined many times how their Big Spade would send her a private message on Weibo. But she didn't expect Almighty Qin to send her a private message first. Even Sister Turtle, an experienced and knowledgeable white-collar worker, almost choked on her water. However, they were all people in the workplace, so their words were straightforward. No problem. Sister Turtle didn't ask why Almighty Qin came to talk to her. Smart people would understand once they saw the things on Weibo. Just now, she was still worried that the scheming person would appear again. After all, no matter how good you were to yourself, you couldn't control the thoughts of others. Somehow he could empathize with them. Her heart ached for Big Spade. The youth who said, justice may be late, but it is never absent. She was being hurt, but some people who said they liked her became her accomplices. This matter must be stopped. Sister Turtle heaved a sigh of relief at the Almighty's timely appearance. Chapter 336. Sister Turtle was not a fan of the CP. She also knew that there should be a deep brotherhood between esports players. Since the last incident, it could be seen that Almighty Qin was really good to their Big Spade. But someone called their Big Spade. Wasn't that too? Sister Turtle shook her head. As a professional woman, she didn't want to be like those cute high school students. She just needed to protect Big Spade. Sister Turtle thought about it and waited for the Weibo post about someone mentioned by Almighty Qin to be sent again. At this time in a star hotel in Tokyo, Qin Mo's fingers moved, logged into his official Weibo, and posted the edited photo of the youngster. He edited a few words in a very simple tone. Both offensive and defensive are shown immediately. Sister Turtle's computer page stayed on Qin Mo's Weibo. When she saw the photo, she was completely stunned. In the photo, the silver-haired youngster looked at the camera with a smile. Even the curve of the corner of his mouth seemed to be smart and handsome. He squinted his left eye, looking very flirtatious. The black ear stud was very eye-catching. And Almighty Qin cooperated with the youngster, tilting his head down in a very domineering manner. His dark eyes seemed to be overflowing with light, and he even showed his collarbone. He was really aggressive. The two people's temperaments were completely different. In the photo, not only did it not erase their original advantages, but it also highlighted each other's nobility. They were so handsome that people just wanted to scream. But the photo also had special effects. The pair of hairy black devil ears on the top of the head was really beautiful. And they were using pillow, right? What was going on? Sister Turtle's hand holding the mouse was a little confused. Again, she really was not a fan of the CP. But if it kept going like this, she couldn't stop thinking about it. Such a photo with Almighty Qin's words was very meaningful. What was Almighty Qin doing? Even if he was giving out candy, it was not like this. His official Weibo would be blown up. It would indeed be blown up. Over there, the person who wanted to use the topic of Spade Z to become popular was still interacting with the 2 or 3 people who claimed to be Spade Z's fans, wanting others to recognize her. On this side, there was already a huge uproar. He was so handsome that the whole screen was flooded. F***ck, is there something wrong with my eyes? Group photo? A photo of us lying on the bed? Oh, so handsome. 2 demons, so handsome. What should I do? Previous poster, you have no hope. Didn't you see the caption that the Almighty posted? The Almighty is on the left and Spade is on the right. I don't want to say anything else. I just want to ask the Almighty, how long will you keep giving out sweets? I'm afraid my HP will be empty and I'll have a nosebleed. My heart is beating so fast after seeing this photo. Almighty, look at the way you're looking at Big Spade, it's so obvious. A long time ago I had a crush on an esports guru. His Weibo was always posted every year. Moreover, it was a game guide. But now he had changed. I don't want to tell you the reason, but as a single dog I automatically accept this bowl of dog food. I really want to run 2 laps downstairs. My most beloved male god and my second most beloved male god are finally in the same frame. The situation. I actually feel so blessed. I want to be a CP fan. Chapter 337. After Qin Mo's fan mentioned it. Only then did the others realize that, indeed, the Almighty's Weibo was filled with Big Spade's Weibo, apart from the games that he had posted before. That's right, everything was about Big Spade. And if this had happened in the past, posting photos? The Almighty even wanted to wear a black mask to cover his handsome face when he was playing. The media didn't dare to take pictures of him. But look at this. Why did the Almighty post photos? And he blocked all other voices with these 3 words in such a domineering manner. What was he trying to say? Everyone knew what he was trying to say. The Almighty didn't just say it when he said he would protect Big Spade last time. Thinking back to the reply someone had sent here, most of them understood what was going on. The Almighty is here to get revenge for Big Spade. I like this way of getting revenge. I hope the Almighty will come here more often in the future. Almighty Qin and my Big Spade are in the same frame. Seeing this, Sister Turtle reposted Qin Mo's Weibo without hesitation and tagged Fujio. Attack receive immediately show, poor my Big Spade, you are so handsome but you still can't attack Almighty Qin. Spade's true fan saw Sister Turtle move, and he immediately followed. Attack receive immediately show, touch my Big Spade, fight again next time? This basically depends on temperament. I firmly believe that my Big Spade is the attack, second only to 1 and above millions. Don't mess around, Almighty Qin just happens to be that one person. Qin Mo's fingers slid through the Weibo page, and he looked at those Spade's true fans tagging him, and the corner of his mouth curved up. That sentence, second only to 1 and above millions, Almighty Qin just happens to be that one person. It was inexplicably pleasing to the eye. Involuntarily, his fingertips moved and he liked it. That Spade's fan, who never thought that she would be flipped, was stunned. Almighty Qin was really closer than she thought. Wow. The Almighty gave me a like. The Almighty is saying that Big Spade is the attack. The Almighty is so black-bellied. I just want to know what my big spade can say. In the morning you said I was so handsome, so I must be the attacker. Now I'm being attacked. Fu Jio had no idea what was going on the official Weibo account. She had a piece of hot toast in her mouth, one hand in her pocket, and the other hand was holding a tray. The food on the tray was especially sumptuous. You only eat fried rice? Chinamo looked up from the phone screen and glanced at the youngster in front of him. The corners of Fu Jio's mouth curled up. Her smile was as bright as the sun, and it was hard to fade. I always feel hungry. It must be because of the lack of meat. It's also possible that I'm growing. Chinmo's fingers were still moving. Remembering that the youngster was still in puberty, he frowned. Have you felt any knee pain recently? Fu Jio shook her head. No. Her chest would occasionally swell up, but it was true. How could she still be growing at this age? It was a little disadvantageous for her. Buy some vitamins after dinner. It's for prevention. Chinamo was thinking about the situation he would face when he was growing up, but he didn't expect the youngster in front of him to be in a different situation. Chapter 338. Chinamo lifted his lids and leaned back, sitting elegantly on the chair. You want to know? Let's see. As he said this, he pushed the phone in front of the youngster with a faint smile on his face. Fu Jio raised her eyebrows and looked at the screen that hadn't dimmed yet. There was a photo with 4 words: attack, receive, immediate, present. And all the comments, all of which were pitying her. The receive? Receive. Didn't the little cutie see her fierce and aggressive eyes? The Almighty was indeed aggressive, but she wasn't bad either. Fu Jio's fingers paused. No wonder the Almighty, who didn't let her take the phone, pushed it away from her. It was all a trick. Fu Jio couldn't enjoy the handsome photo of herself and the Almighty anymore. What attack and receive? Chinamo looked at the depressed face of the youngster with the toast in his mouth and smiled happily. Don't talk. Fu Jio pointed at him. Chinamo was a big brother, so he wouldn't listen to his little brother. Your fans have good taste, especially when it comes to our positions. Brother Amo, you are exposed, I am exposed, so I am also on the offensive. Fu Jio took the tray as she spoke, using food to make up for this defeat. That photo on Weibo had already blown Lin Feng up. He asked Yunhu along the way, did Captain really sleep with Little Spade? What method did Little Spade use to get Captain to take a photo with him? And Captain even learned to say attack and receive. Shouldn't our team be full of straight men? Even if others are gay, Captain should be the representative of millions of straight men. You mean, can you be gay? Yunhu showed his room card and walked into the magnificent hall. Lin Feng shook his head immediately. Oh. Then shut up and take the food. Yunhu took a tray. Lin Feng fixed his eyes on it and strode towards Fu Jio's table. He was first shocked by the number of empty plates on the table, and then he said to Chinamo seriously, Captain, I came to find Little Spade to eat together. Little Spade, let's see what else you want to eat. If he wanted to ask questions, he had to drag him away alone. Fu Jio wouldn't refuse good food, so she smiled and was about to get up. Chinmo's voice was calm. He has already eaten 7 plates, 1 toast and 3 glasses of juice. Are you sure you want him to continue eating? These words were directed at Lin Feng. When those deep eyes looked at him again, there was a hint of pressure. Lin Feng immediately loosened his grip. Chinamo raised the porcelain cup and took a sip of iced Americano. The chill immediately dissipated quite a bit. Since he couldn't pull them apart, Lin Feng could only beat around the bush. After all, the 2 main characters in the photo were there. Little Spade, how did you sleep last night? Where's classmate Feng? Why don't I see him? That's right, don't know that Captain and the others are already in the same room. However, Fu Jio replied to this question very meaningfully. She said in an evil tone, take a guess. Guess your sister. Was Little Spade his biological brother? If you're my brother, then tell me the truth. Lin Feng turned his face and kept communicating with Fu Jio with his eyes. Fu Jio held a piece of chewing gum in her mouth, and a bubble came out as she chewed. She looked so handsome, but she was asking for a beating. However, the captain didn't care about this guy. Chapter 339. Attack. Chinamo raised his eyebrows and laughed. He said coldly, it's the same whether you wear clothes or not. That face is too beautiful, so it'll be even worse if you take it off. Don't even think about it. Lin Feng. 10,000 points of critical hit. Fu Jio couldn't help but laugh. Lin Feng felt that it wasn't suitable for him to stay here in this situation. Yunhu stood behind him dragging 2 plates. The whole team has pictures of you with your shirt off. How can you say that you are the attack? Fu Jiu was interested. Where? Let me see. Lin Feng pulled Yunhu over and said seriously, Little Spade, I have something to discuss with your brother Yunhu. You and Captain can continue eating. How could he pull Yunhu with his strength? Yunhu could knock him down with one hand. But Yunhu liked to tease him, so he let Lin Feng pull him away. Fu Jiu saw that there was meat on the tray and her eyes lit up. Unfortunately, the Almighty moved faster than her. He moved his fork and said calmly, Let me help you destroy such a sinful thing. You want to see pictures of people with their shirts off? My brother's interests are really different. Actually, I only want to see Brother Mo's. Fu Jiu smiled and blinked her left eye. So, Brother Mo, you can give me your phone and let me see it again. Qin Mo was not moved at all. Your eyes are red and you still want to take your phone? If you want to see it so much, I'll take it off in my room. Fu Jiu paused slowly. The Almighty was so cunning and not easy to deal with. And she didn't know if it was because she always flirted with him, but he was getting better at avoiding flirting. Fu Jiu was still a little depressed. Yunhu and Lin Feng came with other team members. Because today was the last day of training, everyone was wearing a very handsome combat uniform. This attracted a lot of attention from the diners. They could vaguely hear people talking in Japanese. Are they esports players? It seems so. Every one of them looks very imposing. Unfortunately, they are not from Tokyo. There is a handsome young man over there like a character from a manga. Esports was very popular in Tokyo. Even Lin Feng, a big man, felt that he was being watched. However, today, Secretary Liang really wasn't in the mood to replace Manager Feng and lead the Supreme Alliance to the training. He was standing at the entrance of the hotel restaurant. His expression was so conflicted that he didn't look like the capable and handsome CEO's assistant that he usually was. Who could tell him what the situation was? There's President Qin, who was so cold that he could freeze people to death, and no one in Jianghu City dared to take a picture of him, was now on the hot search list. There were still 2 people in the photo and both of them were extremely handsome. But Secretary Liang really couldn't appreciate that handsomeness. First, he made an international call to someone he knew, and with great difficulty he suppressed the popularity on Weibo. In the end, Madame had called him. To call him at this time, it would be strange if Manager Feng did not feel conflicted. The waiter at the side couldn't stand it anymore. He stepped forward politely and asked, Sir, is there anything we can help you with? At first, the waiter spoke in Dongjing dialect. Seeing that Secretary Liang was still frowning, he repeated it in English. Only then did Secretary Liang realize that there were still people around. He immediately smiled warmly. Thank you, but no, it's a phone call. As he spoke, Secretary Liang took a step and walked towards a quiet place. Chapter 340. Hello, Madam. Secretary Liang had mixed feelings when he said the first sentence. If Madam asked him about the photo, how would he answer? Could it be that he felt something was wrong with CEO Qin recently? Or maybe it was nothing. It was just that the people in the same team had a good relationship. What the CEO Qin had been alone since he was a kid. Except for those in the compound, who else had he been close to? When he was in high school, he had a group of people following him. At that time, CEO Qin didn't look like a third-generation soldier. He looked like the boss of the school. Now that he was in college, he looked like a CEO. There were many people who admired CEO Qin, but the one who was especially close to him was Fu Jiu. However, he could not rule out the possibility that it was a bond between brothers. He had to be honest. Secretary Liang calmed himself down and asked in a professional tone, Madam, what can I do for you? The beauty on the other side of the phone was a little depressed. Liang. I am here. My son found you. Secretary Liang wanted to say that CEO Qin found me long ago, but Madam only found out now. His eyes were full of tears. Why didn't you tell me that Mo was talking to a boy? You made me so excited. Secretary Liang's heart skipped a beat. You knew? Yes, I knew. The beauty sighed. I told you it's impossible for him to change. Help me keep an eye on him. See if there are any other girls in front of him. If there aren't any, create an opportunity for him to meet them. Secretary Liang wanted to say that he had changed, but no, as the CEO's assistant, he couldn't just guess. Yes, madam. I have arranged it, but CEO Qin is not happy. For example, during this special training in Tokyo, he felt like he was about to be abandoned. Because of the Kali team, CEO Qin looked at him with coldness. Secretary Liang knew that was a warning. You can't go too far. The beauty thought about it and said, then you can pay attention to who he is close to. Guys are fine too, but don't let him be too cold. Secretary Liang opened his mouth. Guys are fine too? Brothers, of course. Mo can't sleep alone, so I heard that he found a good friend to keep him company. After saying that, the beauty bit her teeth. It doesn't seem like something he would do. It's weird. Secretary Liang, so the president really slept with young Master Jiu last night? Those photos weren't taken randomly, right? Why did he feel even more exhausted? Alright, I'm going to join the crew. Let's keep up the catchphrase. Secretary Liang listened to the sound of the phone being hung up. What the hell was the slogan? Madam asked him to do this and he couldn't refuse. It's not that I can't refuse, madam. But he couldn't refuse his boss. When Secretary Liang received this order, he would first report it to his boss. The boss smiled faintly and said, "That's good. You can train your undercover skills. By the way, your CEO Qin's anti-reconnaissance skills are very good. But you have to understand a mother's concern for her son. Go. In other words, my son will definitely find you, so you have to go too." Secretary Liang took a deep breath. He couldn't bear to look back on the past. He had to think carefully about how he was going to work from now on. First of all, Chapter 341. Because of the photo, the atmosphere among the Supreme Alliance members was a bit strange. Especially Feng Xiang, his eyes were full of grievance. He wanted to sue the captain but didn't want to see the lawsuit. Who hasn't seen the fighting video of Sakura Stream Squad? Chinamo was the one who broke the atmosphere. Counting on Fujio? The young man only knew how to smile evilly, which made people think of elegance. Although Yin Wuya was no longer in this circle, he was a professional, so he would pay attention to this aspect. The ones who hadn't seen it were Shui Yaoyao, Feng Xiang, and Fujio. Everyone watch it again. Lin Feng is responsible for explaining. Chinamo said and stood up. Let's go to the hotel conference hall. Such a hotel usually had a conference hall, but it was expensive. But since Secretary Liang was here, this kind of thing would definitely be arranged properly. All the members sat on both sides of the conference room, which was a very cool scene that could only be seen in movies. Yun, who skillfully turned on the computer, then plugged in the USB drive, and the picture was projected on the big screen in the conference room. The captain of Sakura Stream Squad, Yamaguchi. He used to fight with the captain and he is best at close combat. According to the style of Sakura Stream Squad, he must be training urgently now. There are two other members I am familiar with, Lin Feng. This ranking match is 5v5, and Lin Feng and I will deal with these two. The most worth mentioning is him, Shuji. Everyone looked at the photo and their eyes became sharp. It's him. Yes, it's the person we met in the training base yesterday. Yun, whose expression didn't change at all. He just joined Sakura Stream Squad this year, but he has already become an official member. The reason why Sakura Stream Squad is so murderous this time is because of him. This person is best at sneak attacks, and his character is full of hostility when he operates it. He is famous for being bloodthirsty, so in this team competition, we need to be wary of him jumping out of the grass and suddenly attacking us. Someone couldn't help saying, his hand speed shouldn't be as fast as Little Spade. The hero is not just about hand speed. Little Spade can indeed avoid his sneak attacks, but our speed is not as fast as him. This is 5v5 ranking. Yun, who put down the pen and reminded everyone of the most critical point. Here is the video of Shuji's sneak attack. Everyone watch it. Time is tight and this is all we can collect. With that, Yun, who tapped open the video. The members of the Supreme Alliance watched helplessly as the two people who were attacking on the main road were suddenly frozen in place by a red shadow that jumped up from behind. Then the red shadow moved back and forth 3 times, completing a double kill in an instant. Surprisingly, he was unscathed. Such a person would be very troublesome to deal with, whether it was attacking or defending a city. The Supreme Alliance members all looked at each other. They saw the same thing in each other's eyes. The conference room suddenly fell silent. There was only one thought in everyone's mind, and that was how they would deal with this person if they encountered him. Everyone knew that the friendly match the next day would be no less difficult than the national competition. Shui Yaoyao and Feng Xiang were even more shocked. As two pure newbies, they finally felt what really sports was. Joining the Supreme Alliance was just the beginning. Chapter 342. It didn't matter, they would definitely win. They still had Spade Z. Thinking of this, Shui Yaoyao and Feng Xiang looked at Fujio together. Fujio didn't laugh this time. She just looked at the video thinking about something. At this time, Shui Yaoyao and Feng Shang didn't know that in order to protect Fujio's eyes, Chinamo didn't plan to let Fujio play. After watching the video of Sakura Stream's game, the atmosphere of the whole team changed. It was a kind of change in the eyes, which could make people immerse in it unconsciously. When everyone started training, it was already too late. Fujio's hands were a little itchy. In the beginning, she just sat there with a lollipop in her mouth. Later, her eyes began to involuntarily fall on the bright screen. Chinamo sat far away from Fujio, put out the cigarette between his fingers, stood up and walked to the youngster. Look up. Apply the medicine. Chinamo was indeed a good brother, even carrying eye drops with him. When Fujio applied the medicine, she couldn't help but tilt her head to look at the screen. Chinmo's fingers were still lifting the youngster's chin. Seeing him tilt his head, he didn't say anything. But Fujio opened her mouth. She blinked her stung eye and became blind in one eye. I'd better play tomorrow. I'm afraid I can't stop that Shuji without me. His hand speed was really fast, not just fast but most importantly, you didn't know when he would come out. In the game, hiding in the grass could make you invisible. To deal with him, in addition to fast reaction and accurate positioning, the most important thing was to understand the way of sneak attack. Fujio was a hacker. Compared with Shuji, she was better at camouflage attacks so she could deal with what she was good at. Chinmo's voice was very calm. I'm here, don't worry. Fujio wanted to say something. Chinamo raised his eyebrows. What? You don't believe me? Hearing that, Fujio laughed. I believe you, then I'll cheer for you in the waiting area. When did it start? The two of them gradually became this close. In the beginning, they got along with each other with a smell of gunpowder. But now they both knew what each other was like. The trust of the strong didn't need to be said much. But Fujio still felt a little regret. I thought I could fight with you, Brother Imo. What a pity. When he said this, the young man was smiling. Chinamo kept the eye drops and stuffed them into his trouser pocket. His other hand ruffled Fujio's silver hair. Don't say, oh, it'll be more believable. This guy's words were so annoying. How did he manage to endure it? Was it because he was good-looking? Fujio was indeed good-looking. She lifted her hand and placed it on Chinmo's shoulder. Brother Imo, look at my serious eyes. I only saw the redness. Chinamo frowned. It's not good to stay indoors all the time. I'll bring you out for a walk. Our goal is the National League. If your eyes are still like this, they will be affected. Fujio really couldn't stay here. It hurt her eyes to look at the computer screen all the time. After hearing Chinmo's words, Fujio understood the gravity of the situation. She put on a plush black coat and followed Chinamo out. This time, Secretary Liang didn't dare to follow anymore. The outdoor air in Tokyo was very fresh. In addition, because it was too cold, snow had already started to fall. Everything looked very beautiful. Chapter 343. But in the next second, Fujio, who was about to walk forward, paused. The afternoon light shone on her body warmly. People were walking to and fro on the business street and some were looking up. Some were exclaiming, some were laughing and some were talking. Gosh, that must be our number one. The number one team in the whole server, my favorite Hoshino, he's so handsome. I even went to buy Hoshino's merchandise yesterday. I love him so much that I couldn't get a lot of things. Did you see that smile just now? My heart was trembling. That person was asking the girl standing next to Fujio. Then he turned around and saw a silver-haired handsome young man who was no less handsome than Hoshino. He was stunned. Fujio's eyes fell on the large LED screen on the business street. She was very familiar with that person. So familiar that she stopped abruptly. Of course, Chinamo noticed that the young man didn't keep up. He turned around and saw that the young man was lifting his chin with his left hand in his pocket. His eyes were full of tenderness as he watched the scene on the screen. Tenderness? Not completely. There were too many other emotions. What kind of person could make someone stare at him like that? Chinamo also saw that scene. Hoshino, an esports player who had emerged in the past 2 years, was extremely popular in Tokyo. The reason why he was liked by so many people was not only because of his achievements, but also because of his face, which was comparable to that of a movie star. Do you know him? This was Chinmo's first question. Fujio turned her head, and her silver hair fell down. How could that be? I just think he's handsome. Really? Chinmo didn't continue this topic. Fujio laughed. Actually, I know him, but he doesn't know me. I've watched his games and the scene is good. Chinmo looked at the young man again, and his voice was very calm. Got it. The Almighty said that he got it, but it seemed that he didn't believe her words. Fujio also knew that her behavior was a bit obvious. It was only when Hoshino appeared that she stopped. But she didn't plan to do anything. In life one had to look forward. Hoshino should be living a happy life now. That was enough to know. She didn't touch any of her bank accounts and bank cards because she wanted to cover up her identity. Once the matter here was settled, he would go and deal with the others. However, Fujio didn't know that in the eyes of others she had a different expression. Chinamo looked at the youngster without any expression on his face. His fingers paused for a moment, and his long and narrow eyes seemed to have lost some of the warmth they should have. In the end, because they had walked too far, they had to take a bus back. Because of the roads, there was only public transportation. The Tokyo tram was heated and very clean. But as long as it was public transportation, there would be a lot of people. The scenery outside the car window kept changing. Fujio felt a little squeezed. Chinamo was even more unsuited for such an environment. Fujio wondered if this was the Almighty's first time taking public transportation. She had been staring at that handsome and noble side profile for too long. An uncle came up and was about to bump into Fujio. Chapter 344. Fujio pressed her head against it. It smelled a lot better in an instant. Although the trams in Tokyo were clean. But there were many people, so it still smelled good. Now it was gone. Fujio touched her nose and lifted her head. She found out that she and the Almighty were in such a position that she wanted to kiss him. Seriously, don't blame her for thinking too much. She had been teased by the Almighty recently. If Chinamo knew what the young man was thinking, he would have laughed coldly. Who was teasing whom? There were people behind and people in front. Chinamo was like a dead end. Fujio didn't move back. She pressed her head against Chinmo's. Finally, she found it interesting, so she used her fluffy head to push against him. In such an environment, the Almighty couldn't do anything to her. Chinamo really couldn't do anything to the young man. He held the young man's back with one hand and grabbed the bracelet on the tram with the other. His face was extremely handsome. Who knew that the guy in his arms would be so naughty? After Fujio bumped into him, she clearly heard the Almighty's sigh. She was amused and continued to push. Chinamo lowered his eyes and looked at the head that was still trying hard in his arms. The little silver swirl on the top of her head made her look especially cute. He resisted the urge to throw the young man out of the tram like trash. He lowered his voice and said in a tone that sounded like an older brother educating his younger brother, "You've had enough, haven't you?" Fujio smiled. She pressed against him and stopped. After being teased by the young man, Chinmo's inexplicable discomfort dissipated a lot. Even the corners of his mouth lifted a little. He was a little crazy. Because the tram was too crowded. Therefore there was nothing wrong with their current posture. It was just that. Fujio's head was slightly below Chinmo's shoulder. The silver-haired young man lowered his eyes, and the man looked like he was abstinent and domineering. Someone wanted to take a picture of this scene. However, at the next stop the two got off. Chinmo walked out first. It was a street with good air, but without that fluffy head in front of his chest he felt a little uncomfortable. But even so, Chinmo didn't forget the young man's gaze when he stood under the building and looked up at the screen. They should know each other. It was impossible not to know from that gaze. But according to the information he got, the young man didn't have any interaction with Hoshino. That's right. Chinmo had investigated Fujio. At the very beginning. Just how early was it? As early as the first time Coco pointed at the computer and showed him a beautiful character in the game. Spade Z. The letter Z at the end successfully caught his attention. Z0. The technique was very similar, and it matched with his understanding of Z back then. His suspicions grew even stronger when he found out that Spade Z was capable of cyber attacks. But when he found out that Spade Z was Fujio, that layer of suspicion completely faded away. Even though he did not know what Zero looked like, he was sure it was a woman. Chinamo tilted his head and glanced at the youngster beside him. And Fujio, the rich playboy who used to pester him to be his sugar daddy, was unlikely to be Zero. But Chinamo didn't let go of any possibility. He sent someone to investigate where Fujio was on the day of the attack at the 5th Avenue 3 years ago. Chapter 345. Fujio saw that Chinamo was looking at her and immediately smiled evilly. Then she felt her inflamed eyes itch, so she raised her hand to rub them. Chinamo was one step faster than the youngster. He grabbed her wrist and his side profile was handsome. "Don't touch, there are many germs on your hand." Fujio felt that this kind of minor illness was harder to treat than a broken arm. She just needed to reattach the broken arm. Something like eye inflammation really needed time. Feeling that the youngster couldn't bear it, Chinemo simply took the youngster back to the hotel. That posture made Manager Feng, who had just arrived in Tokyo, stunned. He couldn't figure out the situation. However, Manager Feng was the smartest not to ask what he shouldn't ask. Before the official battle. With the return of Manager Feng, the Supreme Alliance, who had been depressed all afternoon, finally felt a little more at ease. The next day, the snow stopped and the sky was blue and beautiful. The friendly match was held at the training base yesterday. Since it was a friendly match, of course, the media wouldn't be informed. But some people in Tokyo would always know about it through some grapevine. There were 1 or 2 esports reporters who came. Of course, their focus was on Sakura Stream, not a team that didn't even enter the top 4 in wuxia. In fact, there is no suspense at all in this match. One of the reporters adjusted his camera, feeling a little bored. The opponent will definitely be suppressed by Sakura Stream and can't even move. Another reporter yawned. You can't say that. There is still something to watch in this match, such as Shuji's performance. My boss told me to write more. Hearing their words, another Tokyo esports fan who came to watch the match shook his head in disagreement. Reporters these days, they just spout nonsense without investigating clearly. Although he was from Tokyo, he wasn't a fan of Sakura Stream. It was Chinemo of the Supreme Alliance. Last year, the Supreme Alliance didn't enter the top 4 completely because Almighty Qin didn't participate. In this match, it was hard to say who would win. They are coming. The 2 reporters suddenly became spirited, and their eyes also shook with excitement. Snap, snap, snap. 3 consecutive shots were taken at Sakura Stream team who entered the field. Sakura Stream team's uniform was in line with the local aesthetic of Tokyo. On the back of the pure white shirt, there was a logo and blooming cherry blossoms. The tallest among them was their captain, Yamaguchi. His height didn't look like someone who played esports, but more like someone who played basketball. Following closely behind was Shuji, who was the most popular candidate. He had a red bandage on his forehead, making his handsome face look even more devilish and murderous. As soon as the Sakura Stream people came in, the others who came to watch the battle also stood up. The arena wasn't big, but it could accommodate dozens of people. There were still a lot of Sakura Stream fans, and that side was full of spectators. In contrast, the audience on the opposite side of Sakura Stream School was calm and somewhat desolate. In Tokyo, it was not uncommon for people to fly from one city to another for their favorite esports players. From this, it could be seen that the other party's strength was nothing much. He didn't even have a die-hard fan. However, they did not know. The reason why there was no one here was because Supreme Alliance had always done things this way. In Manager Feng's words, every time their Almighty Qin showed his face, he had to pay by the second. How could he let anyone come in to watch and film? Chapter 346. The closer it was to the national competition, the more secretive their tactics were, the better it was for them. So Manager Feng simply hid the Supreme Alliance's movements. Even though the whole nation knew that the Supreme Alliance was in Tokyo, they didn't know where they were playing. TSK so miserable. That reporter couldn't help but shake his head again. He thought it was a good topic, so he took a picture of the audience with only 1 or 2 people. Only by comparison can we show the strength of our Tokyo. Just as he was saying this, he heard a noise from the opposite side. Under the light and shadow, 13 people walked out neatly. Each of them was wearing the same uniform, a dark black coat with a circle of pure white fox fur, similar to a cloak, which made them look like knights that only appeared in comics. Which team's uniform looked like this? Wasn't it too extravagant? Extravagant? Was money a problem for the Supreme Alliance? Of course not. Manager Feng smiled like a fox, the kind that hid a knife in his smile. Chinemo took the lead, Fujio stood on his left, and Yunhu stood on his right. Everyone had their own unique style, which immediately formed a handsome and threatening scenery. Especially Fujio's silver hair, which was simply eye-catching, not to mention the lollipop in her thin lips. The 2 reporters on the opposite side didn't expect that the people of this team would have such an aura. Especially the one who took the lead, so noble and domineering, with an indescribable sense of shock. So handsome. Is this the weak team from wuxia? They look pretty good. Maybe it's just their good-looking faces. But they are too good-looking. People like them can be stars. No matter how good-looking they are, they will be destroyed today. Boys and girls had different ways of thinking. In the esports arena, What was the use of being good-looking? Good skills were the real handsome ones. Shuji, who was standing over there, also saw Fujio. He immediately turned his head, gave her a thumbs up, and then slowly fell down. This action of his caused a commotion among the audience. Sakura Stream. Victory. Sakura Stream, victory. Amidst the loud cheers, Fujio looked at his actions. He had one hand in his pocket, and his handsome face didn't look annoyed. Instead, the corners of his mouth curled up a little, looking like he didn't care at all. The youth's arrogant attitude was even more infuriating. Shuji narrowed his eyes, pointed at Fujio, and said to Yamaguchi, "Captain, I'll keep an eye on him." Yamaguchi didn't know about the conflict between them yesterday, so he was a little surprised by Shuji's request. "Okay, but remember, the person we're going to deal with this time is Chinamo." "Chinamo? Isn't it the one with the hand injury?" Shuji didn't take it seriously. "I'll leave him to you, Captain. I'll kill them after I'm done with that guy." Yamaguchi frowned. Shuji, Supreme Alliance is different from the teams we met before. Don't underestimate them. Chapter 347. Shuji seems to be fiercer than usual today. This is going to be interesting. When Shuji fights, even 4 people can't stop him. Is Shuji going to go on a killing spree? I'm looking forward to it. The passion of the fans was irresistible. In the midst of such cheers, Manager Feng shook hands with the manager of the other team with the same smile. "Shall we start?" The manager of Sakura Stream team wanted to say a few more words to show off their achievements, or at least to finish the small talk. But after hearing Feng Yi's words, he swallowed his words to show his generosity. "Let's start." It was not an official competition, so there were no 1v1 or duo matches. There was only a 5v5 siege match. But even if it was a friendly match, it still followed the international esports rules. In the wild game of Hero, everyone could die an unlimited number of times and come back to the city to be resurrected. But in a real esports competition, everyone could only die 3 times. After the 3rd time they had to leave the computer. Obviously, the focus of the so-called siege matches was to attack the city. As long as the opponent's city was destroyed, they would win. This was also the difference between Hero and other games, as it paid great attention to the cooperation of the team. Shuji couldn't sit still anymore. He put on the black wristband and stood up. His eyes were fixed on Fujio. But Fujio just laughed and leaned back with a lollipop in her mouth, looking really handsome and annoying. According to Shuji's temper, he got angry immediately. "Little Spade, what are you doing? Why are you staring at him?" Lin Feng wanted to make fun of her before going on stage. Unexpectedly, Fujio said seriously, "This guy is impetuous, so provoking him will help us. If you want to provoke him, don't do it here. Let's go on stage." Lin Feng was about to pull Fujio up. But at this time, Chinmo's calm voice came over, "He won't go on stage." What? Not only Lin Feng but also Yin Wuyao, who was next to him, was shocked. Little Captain won't go on stage? Little Captain is so good at fighting he won't go on stage? Are you kidding me? His eyes are inflamed, so he'd better not play games for 3 days. Chinmo's face was still as elegant as ever. However, that invisible pressure never disappeared. Lin Feng and Yin Wuyao couldn't help but worry. If Spade Z wasn't there, their attack, Yun, who was calm. "Captain, who's going to fight?" "You, me, Lin Feng, Yin Wuyao." Chinmo said, "Shui Yao Yao." Shui Yao Yao was stunned. Could she do it? There were so many Supreme Alliance members here. She really didn't expect the Almighty to choose her. Chinmo didn't say anything. She reached out her hand and touched Shui Yao Yao's head. "You're good at healing, so you'll be in charge of supporting the offense. Run back and forth in the wilderness and heal whoever you see dying. Don't worry, it'll be fine." With Brother Mo here, you have to believe that Almighty Qin chose you because he has faith in you. The corner of Lin Feng's mouth would twitch every time the youth said, "Oh." Qin Mo watched the youngster's actions. His eyes turned cold, but he didn't say anything. After the commentator and the referee were in position, Qin Mo stood up indifferently, tilted his handsome chin, and bit the zipper of his jacket with his thin lips. He took off the jacket with his right hand and threw it to Fujio. "Let's go." Chapter 348. Baby Feng was left behind. And before Almighty Qin left, he gave him a very important task. That was to keep an eye on his idol and not let that guy rub his eyes all the time. This was Almighty Qin's smoothness, but Feng Shang felt that this task was quite difficult, especially when he couldn't control his idol at all. Idol, Almighty Qin said not to let you rub your eyes. The Almighty is in the competition and can't see here. If you don't say anything, who will know? In fact, Fu Jio wanted to rub her eyes even more at this moment. It wasn't that she didn't believe in the Almighty's strength. She was worried about the Almighty's hand. But, if the Almighty lost today, she would find a chance to kill Shuji more than 10 times. Thinking of this, Fu Jio was about to raise her hand again. Qin Imo happened to turn his head, and his deep eyes were full of meaning. This was why it was hard to deal with a psychic. Whatever she did, he would know in advance. Fu Jio had no choice. She put her hand down, smiled, and grabbed the phone that baby Feng was keeping for the Almighty. Feng Shang felt that he really couldn't deal with his idol, the bandit. Could he find someone else to watch him? Fu Jio took the phone and sent a WeChat message to Qin Imo. Brother Imo, are you going to look back to see if I'm rubbing my eyes during the competition? Qin Imo paused, took out the phone from his pocket, and then tilted his head to type. If you don't want me to look back, be a good boy. Now give back the phone you took from Feng Shang. Seeing the Almighty looking at her, Fu Jio threw the phone at Feng Shang with a lollipop in her mouth and laughed. I told you not to give it to me. Why are you so disobedient? Feng Shang, who was the one who came up to grab it? Who was it? The people of Sakura Stream also noticed that Fu Jio didn't come down. Shuji's eyes suddenly changed and he was very angry. What do you mean? He spoke in Tokyo dialect. But this didn't affect Manager Feng's acceptance. Oh, this is our battle lineup today. Little Spade won't participate. Won't participate? Shuji's hands were almost broken. He had prepared for a long time, but the other side told him that he wouldn't participate. Let him come down. Shuji gritted his teeth, his face fierce. After listening to his words, the fans in the audience began to look at each other. What's going on? I don't know. Shuji seems very unhappy. Did that team do something wrong? Taking advantage of the wind, Shuji sneered. Your unknown team without him, are you sure you can beat me? Let me tell you, I want to compete with him. Tell him to come down. Yun, who understood Dongjing dialect. After hearing his words, he suddenly turned around, his aura extremely cold. Yamaguchi couldn't help reprimanding, Shuji. Shut up. Am I wrong? Shuji tilted his head. I know Captain is afraid of that Qin Imo. He hasn't played in the professional league for a year. How strong can he be? I'm giving Supreme Alliance a chance by sending that person out. Upon hearing this, Fu Jio's beautiful eyes narrowed. She held onto the railing with one hand and jumped down from the audience. Her black coat was lifted up, and her cool pose drew gasps from the audience. Chapter 349. Under everyone's gaze. That handsome young man who looked like a vampire aristocrat walked up to Shuji with his hands in his pocket. He was so bloodthirsty and cold, like an avenger coming out of the darkness. That Qin Imo? Fu Jio tilted her head and her eyes were cold. How dare you call my brother that? Shuji wasn't annoyed but felt his blood boiling. It's hot, isn't it? If it's hot, do it yourself. Do it myself. Fu Jio paused and curled up her lips. I won't. To be honest, I've met a lot of people like you. Why should I compete with you just because you want me to? Is the Sakura Stream team a bandit, forcing others to compete? Feng Shang. Idol, believe me, no one looks more like a bandit than you right now. Fu Jio said this in a Tokyo accent, and the crowd burst into an uproar. The opponent's agent hurried over and said, No, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. Can't you guys just shut up and compete properly? Fu Jio was a very protective person, and in her mind, the Almighty was the only one who had made her suffer. If the opponent said bad things about the Almighty, it would be like asking for death. Qin Imo didn't expect that the young man would have such a big reaction, although the timing wasn't right. But looking at the young man's fierce look, he was in a good mood for no reason. He walked over and rubbed the young man's head. Okay, go back. Remember, don't rub your eyes. Fu Jio, how did the Almighty do it? He didn't forget to warn her at this time. Shuji was so angry that his chest was churning. Now there was only one thought in his mind, and that was to destroy the opponent and make the young man regret what he said just now. Thinking of this, he turned his head and was the first to sit in front of the computer. He pulled his fingers and put on the pure black headphones. The agent finally let out a sigh of relief. After all, he couldn't control Shuji. The teammates of Sakura Stream team didn't say anything. They knew what kind of player Shuji was. The opponent thought that Shuji was impatient and wanted to irritate him, but they didn't know that the angrier he was, the more brutal he would be when he killed someone. Compared to Shuji's murderous look, Almighty Qin was casual and noble. His slender fingers slid over the headphones, and he held the mouse in a very beautiful gesture. It made people feel like he wasn't holding a mouse but a chess piece. In front of him was a chessboard. The young master was like jade. He didn't expect to see such inviolable people in modern times. This was the first thought that came to the minds of the audience. His second thought was, of course, to let Shuji kill them all as soon as possible. However, it was different from the people here. Among the two Supreme Alliance fans, one of them already felt like his blood was about to boil. 1 year. For a whole year, Almighty Qin hadn't played in a professional league like this. Although it was just a friendly match, only those who had played the game knew how exciting it was to be able to see it live. Crack. The game's music started playing. The scene officially entered. It was synchronized to the big screen in the arena. He's here. The two reporters raised their cameras. Even the commentators did not know why, but this time they felt nervous like never before. Not to mention Shui Yaoyao, who was sitting in front of the computer. She only felt that her palms were sweating. But her eyes were very firm. This was the first battle. This was the first battle she would prove herself in. Attack. Chinemo said these words lightly but with a different kind of power. Chapter 350. There were 3 ways to attack. Left, center and right. These 5 players except for Shui Yaoyao were all professionals. Not to mention the opponent's lineup. Cool. So fast. Sakura Stream Team will win this round. Whether it was the 2 reporters or the fans in the audience, they all had the same opinion. After all, just from the screen they knew that Sakura Stream Team was not only fast, but also had 3 players in the middle lane. Seeing that they had almost reached the Crystal Tower, 3 or 4 strong attacks, the firepower was very fierce. Destroyed, the tower is going to be destroyed. But was it really destroyed? They saw a person suddenly accelerate and rush directly to this side. Originally, the 3 players of Sakura Stream Team were not afraid. But they didn't expect that a stun came out of nowhere. The 3 players were collectively frozen. That person concentrated his energy, first killed one with a sweep, and finally turned back for a critical hit. Xuanhu double kill. My god. Who is this person so powerful? The fans in the audience were a little stunned. However, other than Xuanhu, no one else had seen the person who had used the fatal stun that had assisted him. The people of the Supreme Alliance finally breathed a sigh of relief. But even with a double kill, the situation was not optimistic. Because their bottom lane was attacked again. And Shuji double kill. Double kill? Did that mean that Yin Wuxiao and Lin Feng didn't stop him? They were all killed by Shuji. The people of the Supreme Alliance trembled, everyone became nervous and even clenched their hands. However, almost in the next second, Shui Yaoyao only saw a line of words appear on the screen in front of her. Our defense tower has been destroyed. Beautiful. The commentator couldn't help sighing in Tokyo dialect. It seems that Shuji's hand speed has become faster these days. His attack power is also amazing. This time the people of the Supreme Alliance are in big trouble. Lin Feng didn't expect that he would die. His eyes were heavy and he typed in the dialogue box. After the sneak attack he retreated very fast. Should we add another player to go down the bottom lane? No need. The person who spoke was Chinemo. Even though he was still fighting in front, no one expected him to have the time to reply. Both of you walk in tandem, stick close to the bushes. Lin Feng grunted in acknowledgement. After recovering his health in the center of the city, he and Yin Wuxiao continued to attack the bottom lane. Xiao and Ren are gone. Strange, there's nothing in the bushes here either. At this moment someone shouted. He's on the middle lane. Shuji was indeed in the middle lane. He approached Chinemo on purpose looking for a chance to sneak attack. How could Lin Feng let him have his way? He sped up and blocked with his sword before sweeping horizontally. Motherf asterisk cur, I didn't hit it. The other party was too fast and good at fighting in the wild, just like the information said. Even if he and Yin Wuxiao worked together, they would only be able to take out half of his health. When Shuji restarted, his HP was full. Then he did another sweep. A rumbling sound rang out. Shuji double kill. Another double kill? Everyone in Supreme Alliance paled. 4 lives, Lin Feng and Yin Wuxiao had already died twice. If they died again they would be asked to leave the field by the referee. That also meant that the 5v5 would become a 3v5, 3 against 5. It would be a tough fight. Chapter 351. Fortunately, their performance in the middle lane was good, and they took down 2 defense towers in a row. The next defense tower was the opponent's main city. However, it was obvious that Xuanhu's HP was gone, and only a little bit of HP was left to support him. Any random person would be able to kill him in a second. If Xuanhu died, they would lose 5 lives. It seems that the situation of the Supreme Alliance is not optimistic. TSK, I guess Shuji is not interested in this game. His opponents are too weak. I know, right? That reporter curled his lips and looked very disdainful. I don't know what the opponent's captain is doing. Does he really deserve to be the captain? He is not even as good as that guy named Xuanhu. Didn't Shuji just say that his hand was injured? Another reporter was quite understanding. I don't think it's because of the injury. It's because he is too lousy. When the discussion outside the field started, Fujio was still sitting in the same position, with her right hand behind her back and a lollipop in her mouth, but she didn't rub her eyes again. Fengshan was anxious. He wished he could be on the field now so he could help. At this time, Shuji had already started to attack the second defense tower on their right. Lin Feng was a little anxious and wanted to rush over. Then Qin Imo sent a message, "Don't go out of the tower, just defend." It meant that they shouldn't attack. Lin Feng and Yin Wuyao also knew that it was not suitable for them to attack now. But they were worried about one thing. What if Shuji attacks the captain from the side when he sees that we don't go out? Xuanhu's status showed that he was still healing in the city. That meant that there were only 2 people under the defense tower in the middle lane, Shui Yaoyao and the captain. If Shuji went over, it would probably be another double kill. Let him come. 3 words. A tone that was not painful at all. Even Yin Wuyao, who had never played with Qin Imo in the league tournament, felt an indescribable passion rise in his heart when he saw that sentence. As for Lin Feng, his eyes, which had been filled with anxiety, gradually calmed down. After killing the monsters, he ran back to the defensive tower. At this time, Shui Yaoyao sent a kill and killed a member of Sakura Stream's squad. Seeing this, Shuji immediately changed his route and went to outflank Qin Imo. This time, the other party is probably going to be annihilated. That's right, there's no point in killing one person, there are still 2 people left in Sakura Stream. Yo, are they starting to run back? I've never seen such a cowardly captain. While the reporters were still talking, the 2 members of Sakura Stream's squad rushed towards Qin Imo. Shui Yaoyao stood under the defense tower, her hand holding the mouse tightly. She had the urge to turn around and run. However, she didn't forget that before they set off, Almighty Qin said that this path was mainly for attacking, so she couldn't retreat. It was as though Supreme Alliance was being chased and beaten. Yunhu's HP was full. But what was the point? In such a short time, it was impossible for him to return to the middle lane to help. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.